Go to the Big Ten Championship. This one's being played at the exact same time, Dan, 8 p.m. on Fox.
Yeah.
It's going to be Gus and Klatt. It's going to be 12-0, number 1, Ohio State, a 4.5-point favorite, squaring off against 12-0, number 2, the Indiana Hoosiers. Dan, usually when you've got a 1 versus a 2, we start seeing promos midweek for a game of the century.
Correct.
I haven't seen those yet. Have you?
Well, if you watch the Big Ten Network, you probably would.
I mean, this is the biggest thing in the history of the Big Ten Network, a 1 versus a 2 in the
we've
Ten
had
championship
that
game.
Well, we've had 1 versus 2 like Michigan, Ohio State games. We had a top 5 one last year, right? In Oregon, Penn State.
We did, but this is like, this is the crown jewel of the season to be in the conference title game.
Yeah, hasn't been that much of a jewel of a Big Ten season in terms of the big matchups we didn't really get.
I mean, Gus is going to have an out-of-body experience with a 1 versus a 2.
Sure. Okay, so this is what it comes down to me. Ohio State's playing in a big letdown spot. Ohio State is playing in a big spot where they don't necessarily view this as a huge moment of the season, even though they haven't won this game and haven't won the conference in a minute. Ohio State is playing very deliberately this year. They're playing slowly, and by deliberate, I mean they're deliberately trying to pace themselves to peak in January. It is early December at the moment. I'm not saying they're not going to try to win this game. I'm not saying that they're going to skip this game. They're going to try very hard in this game. But this game is not the point of Ohio State's journey. Whereas I think there is more meaning behind this one for Indiana, just because of the degree of their journey is more pronounced and more dramatic. Ohio State has not played a team like Indiana, whereas Indiana has played against Oregon this season.
Right.
So there's a certain amount of self-scouting that Indiana has had an advantage of. Now, Ohio State played Texas. I'm speaking more of like recency or in the Big Ten portion of their schedule. And as mentioned earlier, Texas is built similarly to Ohio State. I keep going back and forth in this one. I kind of love that Indiana is an aggressive zone team.
Oh, yeah. I had that jotted down, too.
In that you're not going to want to man up these receivers.
No.
And look, teams who play a good zone like Texas last season, like Michigan over the past few years, have been able to corral and limit.
I mean, I jotted down here that they're 7th in the nation in pressure rate.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting most of their pressure without blitzing. They're one of the least blitz-heavy teams in all of college football.
Yep.
And they do play the highest percentage of zone defense in the country.
Yep.
Which is exactly as you described. You're not going to be able to man these guys up. You can't. So a good zone defense is probably the recipe to go at Ohio State.
Yeah. I think that they're a year wiser from where they were last season when they just could not protect. It was Curtis Rourke. When they couldn't protect him, he was obviously playing injured, and it was just something they could not account for in playing Ohio State last season. It's a new Ohio State defense. It's a brutally strong Ohio State defense this year as well. I went back and forth in this one.
So did
Betting
I.
against Ohio State has not been a great strategy. Indiana's played 2 close games against a not-so-good Penn State team, a decent Iowa team, and it was a close game against Oregon as well, who has been very good. So they've been battle-tested and won those close games against quality opponents. Ohio State's a different beast.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to be the engineer on the Underthink Express here. I think Ohio State is likelier to win because they've just there's an inevitability to Ohio State that I haven't felt exactly with Indiana, and I think Indiana's been crazy impressive this year.
Yeah.
But it's something about the depth, it's something about the defense, it's something about the not playing close games since that Texas game, and their schedule hasn't been great, and that's a large reason for it, that I just think Ohio State wins this game by a touchdown. I think it's a close game. I think it could be Indiana winning by 3 going into the fourth quarter. Again, it's that inevitability of Ohio State that there are just too many players that I think you're going to come away from this game thinking these are 2 teams on equal footing. But again, inevitability, 27-20 Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to parse this one out, and I'm with you. I was going back and forth too.
Yeah.
And something that kept bouncing around in my head is this is year 2 now for Curt Cignetti. And I still feel like people, and I'll include myself in this, there is something of a mental block when it comes to taking Indiana seriously. And it's not fair to Indiana because Indiana's been incredible these last 2 seasons.
That's
but
just
it's just
a you
been,
problem at this point. Yeah.
Well, it might be, yeah. But I probably speak for some other people out there where it's like, wow, I still kind of can't believe that they have come this far this quickly under Curt Cignetti. But the numbers are mind-blowing. This is not smoke and mirrors. It's not even a Cinderella story at this point. This team absolutely could beat Ohio State. This team could win the national championship.
Definitely.
And I don't really have, it's not that hard of a sell to make that case. They're really freaking good. So we talked about the matchup on defense. They get pressure without blitzing. They play a lot of zone. If you're going to play against this version of Ohio State with all those weapons out wide, you can't man Jeremiah Smith up. You're going to have a good zone defense. That's what Indiana is. So that, I think, works to their favor. To me, I felt like this is a crapshoot. I think this is going to be a good game. I think you can make the case that Indiana is more battle-tested coming into this one. Where I really had trouble, though, is I figure this is a Jimmy's and Joe's situation.
Right.
And even though Indiana is, I think, better and more talented than they were a year ago, I still think Ohio State is way better.
It is a letdown spot.
It is a
not for
letdown
Indiana,
spot.
But for
It is
Ohio
a letdown
State.
spot. It is indeed. But Ohio State is just so damn deep.
Second straight game away from home.
It's just like the weak spots for Ohio State this year were supposed to be what? A green quarterback, first-time full-time starter in Julian Sayin, who may win the Heisman. I don't know.
Sure. But Indiana's guy might win the Heisman too.
Indiana's guy might win the Heisman too. Fernando Mendoza's been great. What else is it supposed to be? The lack of a proven ground game, which was very much the case for a good chunk of the year, but they have brought that along very slowly.
Sure.
Certainly there were no questions out wide. There were, I think, some questions on defense, like, okay, they lost some guys, but how are they going to – they've been ridiculous on that side of the ball. I think Ohio State has done everything within its power to answer some of those questions we had in the preseason. So from my standpoint, I think these teams are very close. I expect Indiana trying to slow this one down to keep the Ohio State offense off the field. I'm curious to see what happens if Ohio State takes away the Indiana ground game. Because I think they're good enough to do it. And I want to know, can Fernando Mendoza go out there and pull off a magic act the way he did against Penn State? Can he win the game for them? Because I think Ohio State's going to try to make him win the game for Indiana.
Sure. Man, now
I've
I'm
got
got
it at-
myself into Indiana.
I've got it at 28-24 Ohio State. So I guess that means I've got Indiana covering.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm excited about this one.
Okay. So the reason it's not as much of a letdown moment is because Ohio State, either way, is going to be off for a while after this game. So
Yes.
it's not like they're looking
100%.
forward. It's obviously not a look ahead. And I think the clean track, no weather, playing indoors probably favors slightly Ohio State. I think I'm going with, once again, the inevitability.
And I hear you on the letdown front. And I know it's all very unscientific. But like if that game were close against Michigan,
That's
if it
true.
were close in the fourth quarter and it was a real emotional type thing, that would be different. That game was over. That game was over for a while. So I'm not banking as much on that as I would otherwise. I got Ohio State winning.
Yep.
28-24. But I think it's a good game, and I think we will be hearing a lot from Indiana in the playoff.